Hi everyone, welcome back to the 21 Unsensory podcast with me, Emily. On today's show, I have the lovely Louise and Fiona on as my special guests. Both Louise and Fiona work for the Wilf Ward Family Trust. They are part of a wider team of 900 people that support almost 300 individuals with learning disabilities across Yorkshire. It was founded in 1986 by Wilf and Phyllis Ward to give relief to carers through the provision of residential respite units and day facilities. Since then, they have grown, providing more than 70 residential and supported living services for adults with profound learning and physical disabilities. Louise is the strategic lead for co-production and involvement, and Fiona is the interim head of complex care. So, would you like to say hello, both of you?
Hello.
Hello, hi.
Thanks so much for both coming on. Now I've done a kind of brief introduction to the Wilf Ward Family Trust, but maybe we could have a bit of background to both of you and how you ended up kind of working there and how you first heard of it.
Okay, shall I start?
I'll let you go first, Lou. Yeah.
Okay. So I've worked alongside people with learning disabilities since I left college in the mid-80s. I had a short spell where I worked in further education, but then came back to supporting people again. And I've always really known about the Wilf Ward Family Trust and really liked their values.
Mm-hmm. And then Fiona, how did you come to it?
So I've been working in sort of the care sector for over 35 years now. So care support and housing is my background, and the housing side has always been supported living, always for vulnerable adults, mental health, learning disability, homeless. Maybe the last God, I've worked for too long. A lot of my time I've worked within learning disability, whether supported living or registered homes, and sort of always been a passion of mine. I came to Wilf Ward. I'm relatively new, so I've only been with Wilf Ward since November last year. What attracted me to Wilf Ward, like I say, I've worked for many different sizes of organisations, from big corporates to the smaller charities. And I must say, I prefer working for smaller to mid-sized companies where you get to know every member of staff and individual in that company, where you can have that relationship across the board. Plus, their values and principles sort of lie alongside my own. So that was that. And since I've joined, it's just been such a welcoming and refreshing company to work for.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. And I feel I get that real sense from like looking at your website. Like it seems like a very kind of inclusive and supportive environment to work in. I was looking at the YouTube channel and of people being like interviewed
Yep.
around like working there, but also being supported by your services, and everyone just had such nice things to say about you.
Yeah, and that's what I found. It is a very supportive organisation. You know, if you've got any issues, everybody's there to support you. You're not on your own dealing with something. It's, everybody works together to resolve any issues and get things moving.
Mhm.
I feel like we care about each other as well. We don't
Yeah,
just care about the people we support, we care about our colleagues as well.
Mhm. And I think that's also really important considering, you know, if your clients have complex needs as well, like that can make, the day job quite tough, like especially for support workers or night workers and things like that. So I think it's really lovely that you're all kind of supportive and understanding of each other, because I think people that work in kind of social care and healthcare are some of the most hardworking people, and it kind of goes under the radar a lot. I don't know if you both feel that.
yeah. I think the frontline workers, don't get the recognition they deserve. They are the people that deliver the service to the individuals, are the most important people in the organisation, and deserve more recognition for what they do and the hard work
Mhm,
that it is. As you rightly say, it is a very demanding role.
And they're
mhm,
very skilled and knowledgeable as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think that goes unrecognised. The amount of skill that is
Yeah.
required in the
mhm.
role.
And what is it? I know that obviously the trust kind of offers services such as like supported living and respite and like kind of day sort of services as well. Is that kind of everything? Have I got everything that you cover, or do you do a lot kind of more? I know that you have like kind of holiday, like homes almost as well.
We have a mix of the the registered homes, the registered care homes,
Mhm.
and the supported living. And we do offer a respite service as well in the Leeds area. So they're the main areas that we deliver services in. The complex care tends to be in the registered care homes, but we do have people in the supported living who have complex needs as well. Um, so the supported living is a real mix of. So some of the properties we own, some we work with housing associations. They'll provide us the property, and the individuals will have their own space, sort of shared living space within that, their own tenancy or license. And we have some of the properties actually owned by the families. So the families are the landlords that we provide the service to to their
Oh,
individuals, their
okay.
family members in.
Okay, so there's lots of different kind of sort of ways of doing it. I
Setups
feel,
and ways of
Mm.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I feel like I've kind of come across this not issue, but like slight dilemma as like my brother who has recently gone into residential care, and knowing like it's knowing what's right in terms of like could he manage supported living? Does he need a residential setting? Like, and
Yeah,
there's so many different kind of um, sort of combinations, I think, which can be a bit overwhelming as a family.
yeah. And I think as a trust, and Lou, I'm sure will back me up on this, we try and promote people to be as independent as they possibly can. So if we feel that somebody's in a residential care setting and they've got the skills and ability to be supported in a supported living setting, then we'd work very closely with the individuals, the care managers, the families to make that transition into supported living. It's about giving people as much independence and choice as we can, really.
Mhm. And it's nice to know that there is the option, should they want to potentially and should they be able to manage to kind of transition to supported living from residential. That's quite good to hear.
No, absolutely not. You know, like I say, we want to promote independence as much as possible.
Mhm. And do you work with like your kind of local council in terms of like funding placements and things like that? Because again, that was another quite a big thing that me and my family struggled with was just the sheer weight for funding and knowing what service it came under. Do you work alongside like councils for funded places, or is it all kind of quite like independent?
A lot of the funding is through the local authorities and the integrated care boards, as they are now,
Hmm.
and continuing health care. So it is very complex, and as a family, it's a lot to get your head around and to understand. Um, Obviously, as providers, we're fully au fait with all the different streams of income. There are a few private funders, but the majority will be funded through those streams that I've mentioned there. The local authorities are our commissioners.
Hmm.
So North Yorkshire is one of our biggest, in East Riding and Leeds City Council. So each individual will have a care package that is funded via one of those streams.
Hmm. Okay.
If that makes sense. So if you've got any questions, ask
Yeah.
away.
No, that does make sense. I think
Yeah.
it's like you say, like luckily you guys are kind of, very used to the paperwork side of things, but I kind of feel like as a family, like you're looking at all this paperwork
Yeah.
and all the kind of acronyms and needing to apply for like power of attorney and like I think it's called like doles when
Yes, the
the
deprivation
person.
of like I say, it is a
Yeah.
minefield and an awful lot
Yeah.
to understand. It is very complex, and it takes a
Hmm.
long time to really understand it all. So
Hmm.
we work very closely with the families of the individuals. They're fully involved in decision making. Things like the dolls that you mentioned, the deprivation of liberty, for example.
Hmm.
Everybody who's relevant to the individual is um, invited really to um, look at the best interest of the individual, of their family
Hmm.
member, and make decisions based on that.
Which I think is really kind of good because you're not just listening to the professionals that work around the person, you're actually listening to the family who, like with my family, like my brother lived with us for just over 20 years. And
Yes.
obviously we're the most experienced in his kind of
Yeah.
care and keeping
Yeah.
him safe. But of course, from a
Yes.
professional point of view as well. So it's nice that you get everyone in on it.
Exactly. Well, no one knows your brother better than you, and it's the same with most families. It's no one knows them better than the
Yeah.
family. So, it just, why wouldn't you involve them in that decision making? And the
Mhm.
information you get from families around communication, it's crucial. And it's so important for the individual that transition into the service. They still see the family and they see that they're fully involved.
And we always take things at the person's own pace as well, so that, for
Yeah.
some people that transition might take a few months. For some people, it might take a couple of weeks, but it's whatever suits the person.
Mhm. And that's kind of like what we sort of found. I know I keep coming back to my own lived experience, but it's just quite interesting to hear, because I feel like my brother had a transition period which was quite short, and then he was gone. Like obviously, into this lovely residential place, which is great, but it's so odd as a family to go from 24/7 needing to keep an eye on someone. That's kind of the level at which he couldn't be out of our sight, to not having that commitment anymore. And I almost think you're not really told about that. You're not really told that actually it goes from all to nothing kind of thing. But it's lovely to see him in the residential setting and kind of like thriving, like he loves it there. So I'm sure you've kind of found that where you've transitioned people and you can see that they're really like enjoying life for themselves and becoming more independent, which is great.
But it's also really important that family are involved too, and continue to be
Mm.
involved as much as they want to be.
Absolutely. And it's important, part of that transition is making sure that their room is how they want it. So we look at the decor and making sure that all their personal belongings come with them.
Mhm.
And I think in some cases we've actually replicated the room that they've got at home.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it makes that just much easier for them, that they don't feel,
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, even just having like familiar furniture from home must
Yeah.
be quite a kind of nice, something recognizable in a different space is always a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important.
And I was reading about, I think it's called a jigsaw group that you have, where you kind of have a sort of group who kind of feed back to you about like lots of different things. Is that right?
We do. We have a jigsaw group which is made up of representatives of the people we support from each region. So we meet once every couple of months, and we discuss things that are happening within the trust and outside the trust. So last year we worked on a project on mental health, and what affects our mental health and what we can do to improve that and protect ourselves. And that ended up with the jigsaw group making a video about us not forgetting to involve them and listen to them and talk to them about things that were happening in their homes, which has been really good.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we're working on rights, so your right to access information, and we're just about to launch your right to vote as well, seeing as we've got an election coming up. But we don't only have Jigsaw, we have some other co-production groups as well. So we've had a recruitment group who have been devising a new process for how people we support want to be involved in the recruitment process. And we're just starting
Oh,
to
okay.
look at support planning, so how people want their support plans to look. And
Mm-hmm.
we have been looking at equality and diversity as well. So people we support telling us about their feelings about equality and diversity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really great to hear. And especially like from a kind of recruitment point of view as well, to kind of understand what, people love to see in, people that they are going to see, every day kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important to kind of make those links and relationships within, different care settings, because, you want to especially for me, like I want to feel like my brother has someone to go to, like he doesn't need to, still rely on my mum potentially, so he now has someone who's kind of his named worker who he'll go and chat to, and that's great because it takes that kind of, I use the word burden, but it's not, but it kind of felt a bit like that. But if it's taken off her, she can kind of know that he's just being kept safe and has someone to talk to. And sometimes that's kind of the most important thing.
Yeah, and really important to get the right person as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly that. And I wonder how, within your kind of service, do you have people that kind of work specifically, kind of when you recruit people, are you relying on sort of bank workers as well as people that you recruit in? Because I know that there's been a lot of kind of bank workers that are brought into care settings, and obviously they're moved around a lot, and that's really difficult for clients because you get used to someone and they get moved around to different homes and things. Like, do you have like set staff per setting?
Yeah, so we have a couple of agencies that we use when we require to backfill for our permanent staff. So we tend to use regular bank staff so that they get to know the individuals quite well. So it's not a new face coming in every time we need to use a bank worker. It's a regular
Yeah.
bank worker. And they build relationships as all our staff would with the individuals, get to know their needs very well. Obviously get fully inducted and trained like all of our permanent staff do. So it's not a new face coming in because we know how distressing that can be for our individuals. They've told us so, haven't they, Lou, through the
They have
Jigsaw
through
group and
Jigsaw,
others. Yeah.
What other sort of like feedback have you got? Do you get sort of positive and negative kind of like things that they want you to work on kind of thing, or like how did the kind of sessions sort of work in terms of feedback?
They're usually very relaxed sessions, and we have the best chats when we have lunch and we talk over lunch, and people really start telling us how they feel about things. So in our EDI group, there was a lot of feedback about things that, happen in somebody's home, where we're maybe doing checks and sorting the rota out and things like that they'd really like to be involved in.
Okay.
So they tell us those sort of things. Trying to think what else we've been doing recently. I'm not sure I explained that very well.
But
No, that was great.
it is great because they are quite vocal. They know they have a channel if they want to. I think within services as well.
Yeah.
The individuals are very they're not backward in coming forward if they're not happy with something. And similar with families, we have that relationship that if they're not happy, that they can come and talk to us at any time. Obviously, we've got a formal complaint system as well, but generally, just through conversation and open communication, we get good and bad feedback. Generally good, but people aren't happy, and then we listen to them and we can do what we can to meet their need, really, or put things right.
It's great that you facilitate that, and I mean, everything's always better over food. Like, just to have that kind of informal chat is great.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's so interesting that I kind of feel like a lot of employers should kind of hopefully learn from this, in that sometimes it's the smaller kind of like adjustments or accommodations, like being involved in the scheduling of I don't know, a residential kind of setting, and like what each week is going to look like. I can imagine maybe neurodiverse clients would love to know, like, what the schedule is going to be and what's coming up, because it takes that fear and anxiety out of knowing what's my week going to look like potentially. So it's great that they can have that as an informal conversation, and it doesn't have to be like a really formal, like, please involve me in this.
Yeah, we did a lot of sharing actually about rotas with some of our people and culture representatives, and Just about everybody in the Jigsaw group said that they would like to know who's coming on shift. So we made a lot of changes to the rotas, and some people now have pictorial rotas, so they know who is coming in to support them. Because one of the things that they said made them quite anxious was not knowing who's coming in on the next shift to support.
It is. It's really important. So they know this. They know the rota and they know the staff that are allocated to work alongside them. Like I say, some people have their named workers as their main worker, but they're not there all of the time. So at least if they know who's allocated to them, and then they get the choice in what they want to do in their activities, and that's the activities are tried to plan in advance so the individual can know what's happening that day if they're going out somewhere or they've got appointments or yeah. So it's very much about information and choice for them.
It is.
Yeah, that's great to hear that they're kind of, involved in their own kind of care as much as they can be.
Yeah.
Is great to hear, because I feel like a lot of kind of professionals that I've come across, like they can, they'll talk over my brother's head kind of thing, or they'll talk about him when he's in the room, and it's like, well, hang on, he is okay. He has some complex needs, but he is able to understand the conversation we're having. So it's understanding the person and bringing them in as much as they can manage, kind of thing. And it sounds like, at your trust, they really understand that.
Yeah, and there's a number of our individuals who are non-verbal, but that doesn't mean that they can't listen and understand and communicate in other ways. And that's obviously the family are very important because they can tell us all those communication skills, those little nuances, until we get to know the individuals ourselves and have those communications and conversations. It doesn't all have to be verbal, but that listening is really important. In waiting, rather than trying to fill a silence, just watch and listen is a real important thing to do with our individuals.
It is, and we also have active support, which we're embedding right throughout the organisation, which is people making sure that people are involved in every aspect of their life and increasing their independence in certain areas that they choose as well, or choosing their own activities that they'd like to do, making sure that they're being part of their community and being active citizens. And we have pathways to independence where people choose which areas of their life that they'd like to improve their independence skills in.
Okay, so it's almost the kind of like planning and the care plan and things like that. It's not just to do with the kind of here and now, like you are kind of forward thinking as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great, because I feel like also, you sometimes get the impression that maybe when people go into like a kind of like care setting, that this is going to be their whole world for the next, however many years, whether it's, an elderly person going into care or someone younger, like you think, that's going to be their entire world and that's all, they'll see and all they'll know. But actually the sheer amount of like activities and things that clients can get involved in is amazing. Like every time my brother messages me, he's like, oh, I went out to here, or I went to a farm, or I went like, I don't know, pottery painting or something. And I'm like, gosh, you wouldn't have these opportunities with, us as a family. Like he's doing more with people than he would be with us.
That's it. We talk at Wilf Ward about extraordinary lives, and that's what we want. We want everybody to fulfill as much as they can within the life. The active citizenship's really important, and having the choice and control with the support to do what they wish to do. It's trying to identify their wishes and aspirations and giving them the opportunity to grow and develop their own aspirations is a big part of what we do and what we want. We want to see people grow and develop.
Yeah.
And what do you feel like kind of as a charity the kind of future holds for you? Like how are you finding obviously the kind of current financial climate and fundraising and just funding in general? Like it sounds like it's quite a difficult time to be a charity and be there for people.
It brings its challenges. We won't deny that. Obviously, like everybody's aware, funding is very difficult and in short supply. So it does bring challenges where we've got to be flexible and efficient and continue to meet the needs of the individual. So we'll just have to see how things develop. We're constantly looking at the way we do things or where we can diversify to meet the needs. So it is an ongoing challenge. You've got to be very flexible and adaptive as a provider to continue.
And I feel like fundraising as a whole has kind of really shifted to a more kind of online sort of thing rather than like, I don't know, not the stereotypical like people with buckets out and about kind of thing, because that's my image in my head. But I just feel like, people don't have the cash on them these days.
No.
People don't hear, through word of mouth about, the great work that places are doing. So I kind of feel like I appreciate you must have had to diversify like quite a lot. And, I've had to look at your website and your social media presence, and yeah, it definitely looks like you're, like changing with the times, if that makes sense.
I think you've got to keep going, and it's looking for opportunities. If we've got projects, is there like charitable funding available, or grant funding available for specific pieces of work? And it could be things like Lou's doing with the Jigsaw Group. Can we tap into bits of funding for that? So it's just you've got to have your eye on the ball and thinking of opportunities, funding opportunities for different aspects of what we do.
Also, I was amazed to hear that there's 900 people like part of your kind of team. I'm assuming you don't know all those people, but like what's the kind of split in terms of sort of, administrative to kind of care, sort of like how big are your own teams?
Oh wow. So the majority of our staff are in services, frontline staff. So the support services like ourselves are I'm not sure of the percentage, we've just been talking about this. So I wouldn't dare say anything because I quote completely wrong.
That's okay, I put you on the
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah. I wouldn't like to guess. I would like to say 80-20, but I might be completely wrong, so don't quote me on that one. Yeah. But yeah, the majority of staff in services, you can imagine it's very staff intensive in especially the registered care homes. The number of staff we have in there can be 30 plus. And then obviously the support living service as well. So if we're providing 24-hour care, and we have night staff on duty, we quite often have 3 staff on a night shift as well. So
Okay.
you can imagine the frontline staff are the majority of our workforce because of the intensity of the support.
Okay. And I think potentially listeners might not realise that actually there is a almost like Ofsted for care homes, and it's called the Care Quality Commission.
That's
and
right.
They kind of report. I've honestly, the amount of information I've taken on board since like my brother's gone into residential home and trying to like see if a care home is like good or excellent and stuff. Like maybe you could explain a little bit about that as well, because I don't think people realise that obviously they are kind of reported on as care settings.
Yeah, so very similar to Ofsted. So the CQC look after, they've got a massive remit. So they look after the hospitals as well. So they look after health and social care. We have to, it's all about quality and compliance and making sure people are safe, make sure our services are responsive, our services are effective. We have good leadership and governance in place. And I think I've forgotten one. So basically, they're called key lines of inquiry, the CLOIs, and they're all line by line the standards that we have to meet. And there's rather a lot of them. They're going through a transition in the way that they will come and inspect. So basically, they will come and inspect our services on site every well, it varies depending on what grading you are. But they'll do a desktop.
Okay.
They'll ask you to submit lots of policies and information about your service. And then if they want to explore more, they'll come and visit services and they'll rate you. Like you say, from outstanding to good, requires improvement. And based on your rating, you get an action plan to improve.
And that's quite like nice to be able to see online as well, because their website kind of lists everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like every sort of care home in your area kind of thing. So you can kind of,
Yeah,
it is like choosing a school almost.
yeah, that's what it is. So yeah, everybody who provides registered services will be registered with the CQC. Anybody who provides personal care should be registered with the CQC and be inspected as it should be, just to ensure that people are safe and well cared for.
And I think it also gives you, as like family and carers, that kind of, I don't know, that sense of, it's being inspected, like, you can kind of read previous reports and things like that.
Yes.
So it kind of gives you that kind of peace of mind as well, because, you might not have ever heard of this residential place and you want to know a little bit more about it. And yeah, sometimes it's quite hard to get all the information, especially when a lot of it you have to kind of contact care providers and they want to speak to you when actually you just want to kind of read a bit more about a setting. Like it can be a bit kind of info overwhelm.
Yeah, it's a good indicator though, isn't it? It's yeah.
Exactly.
I think it is a good indicator, but nothing's quite like going to visit and finding out for yourself, is it? And you get that feeling,
Yeah. Yeah. And get the opportunity to talk to the managers and staff.
Yeah.
It's the best way. And obviously seeing the accommodation.
Yeah, exactly. It's just stressful.
Yes.
What else was I going to ask?
It is very stressful, I think, for any family going through that process. Yeah. Yeah, very conscious of that.
Yeah, I feel like, obviously it creates a new dynamic in, say, a residential setting, because, you're introducing another person and their kind of needs into that environment, but also you're taking that person away from what they've known as well. So I kind of feel like it's stressful for pretty much everyone involved, but hopefully, that's what kind of maybe pushes them towards being slightly more independent and less reliant on kind of family and things like that. So I can see, the huge benefits. It's just initially the paperwork, and it sounds like both of your kind of roles and looking at things like, grants and funding and just kind of the care system in general seems very paperwork heavy.
It's just a minefield, isn't it? It is very complex to find your way around. And like you say, finding a placement isn't straightforward, is it? It's and like I say, it's stressful. And I think that's why the transition's so important on both sides. For the family and for the family member who's moving out, but also he's got to meet and gel with the people in the home that he's moving into as well. There's got to be enough time for that to work and for them to feel comfortable.
I often think,
but it's great to hear that you appreciate like each individual's kind of need as well. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. I often think that families go through almost a grief process as well when people move into supported living or residential care, and I see that, and families have had to fight so hard sometimes to get what the person rightfully deserves, and then all of a sudden they're away and have moved away, and I see people go through a real sort of grieving process.
I've spoken to my mum about this, because she kind of feels definitely that grief of, he's in a good place, that's great, but also like obviously it unlocks her life and the restrictions she was kind of under. It feels so odd, but also, obviously you miss the person, but you don't miss that level of restriction and that level of worry all the time. So it's a really odd experience.
Yeah.
But a good one, obviously.
It sounds positive as well, but there's
Oh
lots of
yeah,
positives
definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really nice to see, and just how lovely the staff are, constantly like high-fiving him when they're, coming in the door when he's back from, us visiting and stuff.
Yeah.
Being like, what have you been up to? Like, they're genuinely like interested in him and his interests, which is lovely to see. And like you say, it's so important to not, obviously knowing the rotas and knowing if like your favourite staff member's going to be in and things like that. Not that you should have favourites, but I'm pretty sure everyone probably does.
Yeah, it's bound to. You're bound to gel with some people more than others, aren't you? It's only natural.
Yeah, exactly. Like, especially, if you want to talk football with someone, there's only going to be a certain number of workers who might be also interested in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going to ask you both, what do you kind of feel are the most sort of rewarding aspects of your job roles, and how do you feel like you're kind of making a difference?
For me, it's people changing and growing in confidence and feeling able to speak up and make changes for their own life.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. Obviously, a lot of my role is about making sure that we're compliant and that we're continuing to improve and best practice. So seeing the way we do things improve is really important to me. But I think the most rewarding thing is when you're in services and you can see, as Lou said, people growing in confidence and developing. Sometimes just the littlest smile or giggle can just make your day from people. Yeah.
We have one of our jigsaw reps who didn't really speak very much for the first 3 or 4 meetings, didn't feel very confident about speaking in a group. And then the week before last, he went to our senior leadership team meeting and held the meeting and ran activities. So seeing that sort
Wow.
of confidence,
he had
brilliant.
he had the senior management team up on the feet and
Yeah.
miming the hobbies. Which,
Amazing, which is it's terrifying for anyone to lead a meeting, let alone a senior leadership meeting.
No, but that was just brilliant. Yeah, to see how how he developed, and such fun. Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the nice thing as well, is that you're kind of popping in and out of people's journeys, or seeing how people are getting on over like the course of their lives potentially. Like, it must be quite nice to see that kind of change and hear about it from kind of colleagues and things like that. And yeah, it's great to hear that people have kind of grown in confidence. And especially it's hard to speak up when you're struggling, and it's hard to communicate if something isn't quite right. So the fact that they're able to do that in such a in a big format like a leadership meeting is great.
And even just smaller achievements. I don't even think it is a small achievement. We have a lady who likes to wave to people and just be part of a group. And she has become a marshal in one of the local park runs. So as people run by, she waves and cheers them on. As has then become part of that group of marshals. So she goes out for a coffee with them afterwards, and they ring if she doesn't turn up to find out if she's okay. And she's really become part of her community. So that's brilliant.
That's lovely. And to have people like looking out for her as well and being like, where is she?
Yeah.
That's lovely. And to be involved in like a kind of community aspect, because I feel like also it's really hard to make friends as an adult, let alone try and kind of find sort of people that you kind of gel with. So to be able to find that and also enjoy an activity at the same time is lovely.
It is, yeah. I think it's one of our aims as well, that people step outside the world of learning disability into what's happening in their community and become much more part of their community.
I can't believe you've been speaking for 45 minutes. That went very quickly.
Yeah, thank you as well. It wasn't as daunting as I expected it to be.
I try and make it very informal, just like a chat that's being secretly recorded. Because I'd hate to be on a podcast myself. So. I don't want people asking me questions.
No, you tell us.
Now I tell you all my secrets. and that I mainly spend time editing myself and not the guests. The guests are perfect, and it's just me umming and ahhing. Well, thank you for giving up some of your time to chat to me. It's very kind of you.
Yeah, and I hope everything goes well for your brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.